right, let's sprinkle on a little breaking news for you. The Wisconsin judge accused of helping an illegal evade ICE just lost her bid to drop the charges. Hannah Dugan tried to get those federal charges tossed, but this case will proceed. Look, no one's above the law. Good riddance, lady. Now, just after 5 o'clock here on the East Coast, here are the top 5 stories we didn't want you to miss. If you drive a truck, you need to speak English. Weird. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is now threatening some blue states for not enforcing this rule. Duffy says California could lose $33 million, Washington $10.5 million, New Mexico $7 million. Duffy says this is a safety issue, not a political one. It comes in the wake of the deadly Florida crash that killed 3 people. Authorities say the driver who made an illegal U-turn came here illegally from Mexico in 2018, was licensed in California, and didn't speak much English. And the Trump administration is also warning they'll pull $80 million in sex education funding if programs don't remove gender ideology mentions. Look, if you can't define what a man or a woman is, you shouldn't get this funding. New York is at risk to lose the most. Plus, Trump held his 7th cabinet meeting in just 7 months of his term. This went on for literally hours today. Compared to this to Biden, who held 9 cabinet meetings during his entire 4-year term, one of which was headlined by Jill, not a real doctor. Biden also spoke for a total of 45 minutes and, 5 minutes per meeting, ever. Newsweek is reporting Trump and RFK may actually ban the COVID vaccine. Okay, this could reportedly happen within months. If this happens, I just can't wait for the left's meltdown. But I told you so. This is why I didn't get vaccinated. Plus, Trump getting involved on the Cracker Barrel logo fiasco. He says they should go back to their old logo. Trump adds that they got $1 billion worth of free publicity. Wasn't great, but they could make this right. Well, they did scrub all their LGBTQ stuff from their website, and yesterday noted, quote, they could have done better. Yeah, I'll say. Peter Navarro is also standing by to discuss the FBI raid of John Bolton's home and office. But first, 600,000 Chinese students in our colleges. I'm with Trump on most things. Maybe I don't know the whole story, but I'm struggling to see how this is a good idea. Let's do this. So this was a little bit of an interesting one. Like I said, I'm normally with Trump on most things, but I'm a little confused by his stance on this one. He's been railing against China for 40 years.
China is taking advantage and abusing us.
Is China our enemy?
In an economic sense, absolutely. We have China because of trade. They're sucking our money out of us. They're taking our money like candy from a baby. We've been very badly let down by China. I'm very disappointed in China.
Even the people like me, look, I back Trump on nearly everything. We're a little confused here, okay? Today, he took a bit of a different tone.
Look, we're getting along very well with China, and I'm getting along very well with President Xi. I think it's very insulting to say students can't come here. We're just getting along very well with China. It's a different relationship than we had for years, where they took hundreds of billions of dollars, just sucked it right out of our country. They respect us again. I respect them. The relationship is very good.
And look, it's Trump, so I have to think this is tied to some sort of leverage for a trade deal upcoming, okay? Because that's still pending. Trump mentioned this might be the case a while ago, saying, quote, full magnets and any necessary rare earths will be supplied up front by China. Likewise, we will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities. Okay, benefit of the doubt. It's a negotiation, give and take, and I'll get to why this is dangerous in a minute. But last night, Howard Lutnick goes on and tells the world that if we block Chinese students, it would be taken from the top and 15% of colleges would go out of business and whatever else he said. And I'm thinking to myself, 15% less colleges, no Chinese nationals stealing our intellectual property. Okay, win-win. But first, look, listen to this. We have almost 6,000 what they call post-secondary institutions eligible to participate in financial student assistance programs. 6,000 institutions for which a 17-year-old kid with no credit, no concept of ramifications of a loan can get one for $200,000 with no collateral at 19%. They can mortgage their future and never be able to file bankruptcy on that loan. Look, okay, That 6,000 seems like a big number for that. But look, I subscribe to the Warren Buffett logic. I didn't go to college. And he said that you don't actually need college outside of a few very specific trades like doctors, even lawyers as recently as like 100 years ago. It was not mainstream to go to law school. It was all done through apprenticeships. It didn't even become the primary path to being a lawyer until money became available for it when post-World War II, the GI Bill fueled an explosion in post-high school education. And now what? You got this. You got many universities like Yale. They have more administrators than undergrad students. They are employment farms for mostly liberals. So I could care less if 15% of colleges go out of business. They don't produce anything other than debt for our kids. People are getting like gender studies degrees. They can't get real jobs, so they just get recycled back into the teaching ranks to teach the same worthless degrees that they couldn't get jobs in for other suckers taking out $200,000 in loans. But more importantly, I'm sure Trump must know this, and if he doesn't, he should actually just fire all of his advisors. But did you know that the People's Republic of China, the National Intelligence Law of 2017, quote, any organization or citizen shall support, assist, and cooperate with the state intelligence work in accordance with the national intelligence law and keep secrets of the national intelligence work from becoming known to the public. This is the reason that it is so important to China to attend our universities. It's worth a lot to their spy community. And this is known globally that China steals ours and basically everybody else's intellectual property. The vast majority of Chinese students are enrolled in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Like, they don't come here to get basket weaving degrees or all those other dumb things. So what are those STEM sectors heavily involved in also? R&D, research and development. In fact, almost all graduate students, particularly PhD candidates, which amount to it's like tens of thousands participate, and some of these are among confidential university-funded research and development. Conservative estimates say 30 to 50,000 Chinese nationals are in cutting-edge research and development paid for by our tax dollars and the money being loaned to American students via tuition. Sure, China pays tuition, but unless you're contributing to the Penn Biden Center, it's not a lot to the universities. Again, what America and our liberal institutions view as like some weird, like, oh, we're inclusive and tolerant. Our adversaries view it as an easy target. And in a weird about face, this is what I'm so confused that Trump is wanting to allow 600,000 Chinese students now. What's even scarier is 90% of these Chinese nationals, after they graduate, they stay here under work visas and go on to work for the companies that also develop sensitive products. Remember, again, it's their duty as a Chinese citizen to act as an agent on behalf of the CCP, which includes feeding intel back, which is why our companies and our economy and our products are being undermined by cheaper stuff at a rate from China.
China's defaulted with us because if you look at what they're doing with intellectual property, $300 billion a year. I mean, you look at what they're doing with the way they steal our intellectual property, our intellectual rights. I mean, it's crazy what they're doing.
Yeah, and that was when he was then candidate Trump in 2016. Now, post-COVID, China costs us an estimated $600 billion in intellectual property theft to the U.S. That's to private businesses, folks, every single year. So for Trump, I mean, look, he's a smart guy. He's been way ahead on the China stuff. I mean, like, he's a businessman. I can't imagine he doesn't know this. And for Trump to agree to perpetuate $600 billion in economic damage to the United States, I got to think that he sees something that he would get out of it. I mean, he wouldn't do it for nothing. I mean, I was doing the math. Is there a mathematical way to recoup our $600 billion to the U.S. economy in a trade deal? No, there's not. China imports less than $500 billion worth of goods to us. So even if we tariffed it at 100%, it wouldn't even compensate for the IP theft. I'm struggling to see what's going on here other than, keeping 15% of universities from going out of business, like Howard Lutnick said, which is notably almost all lean Democrats. Like the most of these universities are just full of libs. I'm at a bit of a loss, but Trump's usually has a plan for this stuff, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But if it was up to me, I wouldn't let one Chinese national into our universities. I wouldn't let them own a single square inch of farmland. I definitely wouldn't let them work for our companies with proprietary information. So until I see more, I'm respectfully, Mr. President, disagreeing with you on this. Gordon Chang, author of The Coming Collapse of China and Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America. Gordon, this is like the weirdest turn of events for me. Please tell me that there's some sort of big deal that I'm not seeing here.
I think you're seeing everything, Carl, and I agree with you 100%. There's a couple of issues here. There's the spying, of course, and then there is the place of these institutions in society. They are here to teach Americans. This is our country. This is supposed to be our future. Every place that goes to a Chinese student or a foreign student is one fewer place for an American, and that is the essential fact. The other thing about this is, we not only import students, we're importing Ministry of State Security agents, because where there are Chinese students on our college and university campuses, where they're in even just high schools, there are Ministry of State Security officials monitoring, coercing, and surveilling these concentrations of students. So if we're importing more students, and we got about 277,000 now in the last school year, 2023, 2024, if we're going to more than double that, we're going to be doubling the number of Chinese spies in our country.
Yeah, but
so
who's giving him
really
this
wrong.
advice?
I don't know. My guess is, Trump is a force of nature. And when he has great ideas, he's got the will to implement them. And he goes out and he talks about them. He's not filtered. There's no interagency process in this administration. But it also means that when he's got a truly horrible idea, there's nobody to stand up and say, Mr. President, don't do this. This is wrong. And unfortunately, you had Trump's comments yesterday. You had Howard Lutnick cheering him from behind.
Do you think he's trying to woo Xi into this trade deal that's upcoming? That the end is running out on this short-term deal. Do you think it's part of that?
It might be, because it was in a discussion, in comments about trade, but it is on the wrong side of things. Because remember, Trump is saying, look, we're going to get a lot of money from Chinese students. So the Chinese are going to say, well, you think having Chinese students in your country is a benefit to the U.S.? We're going to make you pay for that in some concession you give to us. So those comments, I think, put the United States into a weaker bargaining position, not a stronger one.
Yeah.
So I don't see the logic of this. I'm on your side 100%, Carl.
My only thinking is that he's going to get this trade deal signed and turn around and say, ha-ha, they can only enroll in basket weaving. Have a nice day. Gordon Chang, pleasure, sir.
Thanks, Carl.
All right. Gordon Chang's book, Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, is available in bookstores everywhere, or get it with a free offer from Newsmax. Call or go online. Check it out. All right. So another major headline of the day. John Bolton is breaking his silence after FBI's raid of his home and office in a probe for sending classified material, allegedly at this point, to his family and wife. In an op-ed for the Washington Examiner, Bolton, who they published this, wrote, President Donald Trump's Ukraine policy is no more coherent today than it was last Friday when his administration executed search warrants against my home and office, collapsing in confusion, haste, in the absence of any discernible meeting of the minds among Ukraine, Russia, several European countries, and America. Trump's negotiations may be in their last throes, along with his Nobel Peace Prize campaign. Okay, I'm the guy who's never solved any peace ever in his life and only contributed to more wars. Peter Navarro, Senior Counselor for Trade and Manufacturing. Sir, you released a scathing op-ed on Bolton today. What say you?
Dr. Strangelove with a mustache, that's what I say. I served with Bolton. I saw him. He'd come into the Roosevelt Room for staff meetings, and the only time he'd ever get excited is when he was planning a coup on Venezuela. This guy is toxic. Now, here's what you need to know, which is a serious thing. He comes out firing with both guns, but he's shooting blanks. What is he? He's talking trash about Ukraine, whatever. But let's go back to what he said, for example, about, for example, Maduro in Venezuela or in Turkey. Okay, there's documented things he wrote about. He was talking about stuff in Venezuela that turned out to be totally untrue after the fact. Same thing with the Turkish thing. What he'd do, and I'd see him do this, he was like what's the other one? The Unabomber, right? Like these. You see him writing all these notes all the time. I mean, you can't do that in places like the Situation Room and in national security conferences with world leaders, and not do anything but shred them after, because those are classified documents. So who knows what happens? But here's what you need to know. Here's what you need to know. When the courts ruled about whether he could publish his book, they let him do it because the judge, Royce Lamberth, said the horse was already out of the bounty. He leaked all sorts of stuff, right. 2,000, 100,000 copies in print all over the place. But what the judge clearly said was two things. One is that Bolton jeopardized national security, likely jeopardized national security, gambled with national security. And he also said that the suit against Bolton would likely succeed on the merits. So you can bet your bippy if Donald Trump had won a second term at the time, that case would have gone forward to fruition. And it's very likely that Bolton would be sitting in a prison right now because there's about 4 different national security statutes that he was alleged to potentially violate. So this is a guy. Go ahead,
Peter. The other thing that a lot of people don't know is that this guy's never met a war he doesn't like, and having been fought wars, I hesitate to get into him, but he held the office at the State Department under Bush that wrote the policy and contributed to the science of going into Iraq under WMDs. People don't remember that.
Yeah. Well, I do, and look, the guy's a warmonger. Dr. Strangelove with a mustache. I mean, it's a tagline joke, but that's who that guy is. I mean, he was scary. And the boss, he quickly wore the boss out. It's like every time there was a crisis, Bolton's solution was to blow stuff up when diplomacy worked, and particularly Donald Trump, because he's a great diplomat and peacemaker. So I think, look, the problem. Let's be clear about what Judas Iscariot did here, right? He published his book in the middle of the 2020 presidential election.
And the impeachment.
And he goes on CNN, and he goes on CNN and all these left-wing networks. He makes all these accusations, which after the election turn out to be full of bluster and BS. I don't know, at least $2 million, maybe more, maybe as much as 5 or 7. He sold a ton of books.
$2 million advance.
Simon & Schuster, by the way, was his typical publisher. They're the ones who publish all the anti-Trump books. They laugh all the way to the bank. But, I tell you what, it's just not Bolton who should be nervous. If I was the editor of Bolton's book at Simon & Schuster, I'd be expecting subpoenas to be coming because they had, I'm an author myself. I know what happens when you write a book. You have to go through legal. You have to go through coverage. I'm sure they were asking him where this stuff came from, show us your notes and things like that. So if it turns out that we find what at least DOJ finds, I'm not looking, but DOJ finds what could be well there and may well likely be there, that guy, I mean, his sequel to the room where it happened. I was in the room where it happened. He's going to be in the cell where it happened. That's what
exactly
it's going to be all about.
And
next.
During his security clearance review, he sent all of the security clearance requests over an unclassified medium, so basically making it mute. Peter Navarro, we got to leave it right there, sir. Pleasure as always.
Always pleasure.
All right, coming up, Lisa Cook, who was just fired by Trump as the Federal Reserve Governor, is now lawyering up. She's hired a big shot and refusing to leave. But first, Trump honoring the 13 heroes killed today during the botched Afghanistan withdrawal. Sebastian Gorka on that next.
A very special day. 4 years is a very special time, and now it's lightening up, but it'll never be really light. But there are some great souls that are looking down on you right now, and they're very proud of their parents and brothers and sisters, and but moms and dads especially. That's what I seem to have dealt with mostly. There's nothing tougher.
And this was unforgivable. Fortunately, Trump is signing a proclamation today to remember what happened when 13 Marines were killed at the Abbey Gate during the botched Afghanistan withdrawal under Joe Biden. Remember when he checked the watch when their bodies arrived back? Trump invited the families to the White House. Compare that to Biden, okay? This guy was a disaster. He didn't care. He wasn't even mentally there. He wasn't even involved in the decision making. Or when Biden got the Gold Star dad arrested at the State of the Union because he just wanted answers about his son being killed. Sebastian Gorka, Deputy Assistant for the President and Senior Director for Counterterrorism. Sir, at least Trump's trying to make it right. But I mean, like, we still don't have a lot of answers, and not a lot of people have been fired for literally killing American soldiers.
But we will get the questions answered, Carl. I was there with the families before we went to the Oval. It was one of the highest honors in my life. Then to hear the president sign that proclamation, recognizing the tragedy, the massacre that shouldn't have happened because of the feckless lack of leadership of Joe Biden. And let me just illustrate the seriousness with which the current commander-in-chief takes his obligation, not just to protect America, but to also respect all of our warfighters. You're a former frogman, you're a former SEAL, you get it. So nobody's talking about what the president made happen 41 days into this administration. He told those parents, brothers, wives, sisters at Arlington a year ago that we will find the man responsible for the Abbey Gate massacre that took your loved one away. As he was addressing Congress at that joint session on March the 4th, I was on the tarmac at Dulles with Tulsi Gabbard, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and John Radcliffe. Why? Why were we standing there on the apron? Because a DOJ jet was about to land with Jafar, the ISIS mastermind, on the aircraft in handcuffs. He made that promise to the Abbey Gate 13 families, and we kept that promise, and that man will never, ever walk the earth free again.
Yeah, well, thank God. But Sebastian, the other thing, too, is like we left $80 billion worth of military equipment. Trump's been very vocal about how stupid of a move that was. Has there any effort to destroy, recoup, track down? I know some of these weapons are even ending up in other conflicts.
So the president is fully focused on the tens of billions of dollars of equipment that were left in Afghanistan. Not only that, the most egregious thing after loss of life is the surrender of Bagram Air Base that basically left America blind. The fact that the most strategic air base in the region was handed over to the Taliban that gave aid and succor to bin Laden prior to 9/11 tells you that this nation was being run by people who hate America and who will sell us down the river. Imminently, I can't go into details, but we are working very, very hard to get some good news out of that region. But the bottom line is, let me give you the figures, Carl. Since President Trump raised his hand for a second time and took the oath of office, our warfighters have killed 272 jihadis across the globe. And President Trump, thanks to his special envoys, thanks to Steve Witkoff, Adam Boehler, Rick Grenell, have brought home 72 American hostages from captivity. That's how seriously we take our counterterrorism mission.
Yeah, well, you guys have done a remarkably much better job than even in Trump's first term. He's really stepped it up. All right, so I got to ask, though, do Democrats even care? Because I haven't seen any Biden, Blinken, none of these guys who were responsible for this in part, they haven't said anything publicly today.
Well, why would they? When that disgraced four-star general, Mark Milley, and that former general, Lloyd Austin, the disgraced Secretary of Defense, said, oh, no problem with the rout of Kabul. That was fine. I have no issue with more than 170 Afghans murdered that day, 13 Marines, a corpsman, and a Green Beret. No, that was absolutely fine. So they are hiding under a rock because they are a disgrace to the oath of office they took in uniform and as civilians.
Yeah, no, it's shocking. Well, Sebastian Gorka, we appreciate your attention to this matter, and thank you for your service down there at the White House for us, sir.
God bless.
All right, coming up, the fitness experts, at the New York Times are warning against, quote, unsafe MAGA healthcare practices. They didn't left and physical health people. Unbelievable. We got that in our Culture Clash next. This is why I think the New York Times is ridiculous. And just the left in general, actually. Take a look at this headline. Quote, 100 push-ups and 50 pull-ups in under 10 minutes. What could go wrong? Fitness experts caution against jumping into difficult routines suggested by RFK and Pete. I did this for a warm-up the other day. It's not difficult. Let's take a look at some of those experts, okay? For the average person, I would definitely recommend building volume in those movements over 3 to 4 weeks before giving it a go. Most people can't even perform 5 strict push-ups with proper form or a single pull-up without compensation, said Chris Smits, a personal trainer based in Canada. Not even, okay. Pushing for such high numbers without necessary strength foundation can quickly lead to poor form, overcompensation, and a high risk of injury, including serious muscle strains or... Shut up! Just shut up. You cannot make this stuff up. Like, I'm a real fitness expert, and I say go out and work hard. And you know what? You should be in shape anyway. America's getting too fat and lazy to listen to Canadian personal trainers. Kay Smythe, writer for KSmytheHill.com, Benj Irby, political commentator. Kay,
This would make you angry. It made me angry too. It's certainly embarrassing. And let's be honest, if you're at the gym working out and you're not doing it properly, like if you're one of the 3 people who went out after this video, I mean, everyone I know could already do all of this. Like you said, it's basically a warm up. But if you're one of the people who's going out and finally getting in shape now that you've realized you can be masculine again in America, it's allowed now. Someone at the gym's going to come up to you and say, hey, dude, you're not doing this correctly. And that person is your friend. And you need to listen to them because they're trying to make you live longer. And I'm absolutely here for it.
Yeah. Speaking of fitness, I had to show this clip of Pritzker yesterday being questioned after his little anti-Trump presser conference. Whoever this cameraman is gets an Emmy and a raise. Roll this.
We're very pleased about the progress that we're making. I know that I live rent-free in the president's head, and I wish he would spend some time in Chicago so that he could see what a lovely city we have.
Governor, quick follow-up. What do you do if the National Guard is activated and comes here?
Bench.
Freaking hilarious. I mean, obviously that cameraman must hate him. I mean, why would he set him up that way? Now, this is someone we know definitely can't do, Hegseth's challenge there. No push-ups and no pull-ups there from J.B. Pritzker. He's looking for the nearest Krispy Kreme donuts. But I've actually been at that same place in Chicago looking at the Trump Hotel. It's cold as hell out there. I was there in the wintertime. It's beautiful, but I mean, look at this guy. He's downtown, 6 o'clock in the morning. The part of the Chicago that Trump has an issue with is South Side. O Block, where the actual crime is going on. He comes out there with security detail, 6 in the morning, and says, oh, look, Chicago's safe in the safest part. How about you go down to O Block on Saturday night at 2 a.m. and do that same thing without security, with just your iPhone, and let's see you do that, J.B. Pritzker.
That would be actually hilarious. Okay, Vanity Fair is facing a staff revolt, and I could care less, but the editor-in-chief suggesting a Melania Trump cover. One editor told sources, I will walk out the mother effing door and half my staff will follow me. Okay, bye.
Yeah, bye, Felicia. This is why so many of these news outlets are failing. No one wants to pick up a magazine or go online and read this kind of drivel anyway. If any of them actually wanted to survive, they would have pivoted and started hiring either unbiased or right-leaning writers anyway. This is what America wants. Firstly, this is not only just what America wants, it's what America should aspire to be. No one should be aspiring to be the fat, blue-haired, terrifying lefty that no one's going to buy anything from. If we learned anything from the Sydney Sweeney campaign, it's that we want more beautiful women out there on magazine covers looking great because that's what makes sales.
Yes. Weird. It's only worked for 100 years. All right, Benj. Snoop Dogg, Snoop D-O-double-G. Now, apparently they're calling him a raging homophobe, and you can't cancel Snoop, but they're trying to cancel Snoop for saying that he just basically didn't want to take his kids to this LGBTQ Disney stuff. Roll this.
She had a baby with a woman. Well, my grandson in the middle of the movie Papa Snoop, how she have a baby with a woman? She a woman. Oh, I didn't come in for this. I just came to watch the movie. Hey, man, watch the movie. They just said she had a baby. They both women's. How did she have a baby? Shh. The movie ain't over with. So it's like, I'm scared to go to the movies now. Like, y'all throwing me in the middle of that I don't have an answer for.
He's kind of saying what everybody's thinking.
I mean, Snoop Dogg is absolutely right. This is another one of those, 80-20, 97-3 issues that the left is going along with. Well, however you may feel about gay people, LGBT or whatever, it has no place to be in front of our children. Stop grooming our children. Stop sexualizing our children. Stop putting sexual things in movies and things of that nature. Kids have their whole lives to figure out what they want to do, be whatever sexually. Let them be that when it's the time to be that. But this like grooming.
And when they can choose.
Exactly, when they make their own choices. This drag queen story time and all this stuff, it's groomy, it's weird.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to push this in front of kids? There's no reason why children should ever see any of these things. No reason.
Yeah, exactly. But that they figure that's their next voter base. So,
well, they unfortunately, I hate to say it, but they say, they can't reproduce, so they recruit. I hate to be that guy, but I mean, proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, it's kind of like a biology thing, which they also don't understand. Ask Ketanji Brown Jackson. Kay, Benj, always a pleasure. Appreciate it. All right. Coming up, you're never going to guess who Lisa Cook, the fired federal governor reserve lady, hired as her lawyer. All that and more next. So Lisa Cook has hired not just any lawyer, but Hunter Biden's lawyer, Abby Lowell. This news comes after Trump posted a letter stating that under the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, which we told you about here last week, she is hereby removed from her position. He went on to say that this was over allegations that she committed mortgage fraud before she joined the board. And guess what her response was? She said she's not stepping down after the president of the United States, under a law, fired her. I would just disable her swipe card. But I want to know how a volunteer on a transition team goes to being the governor or a governor on the Federal Reserve. She is known for one of the most powerful economists. Like, for what? I mean, we've been asking for a long time, like, what is her record for this? What's her academic record? Experience? I mean, she seems like she's consistently just inflating her credentials. She's never had a deliverable. Don't forget, Kamala Harris had to cast the tie-breaking vote to get her appointed. Here's her background to explain beautifully.
And if confirmed, Cook would be the first black woman to serve on the Fed's board.
It would be interesting because if Lisa Cook is confirmed, she would be the first black woman to serve as a Fed governor in the Fed's over 100-year history.
If confirmed by the Senate, Cook would be the first black woman on the board of the Fed.
The attacks on Dr. Lisa Cook, who Biden wants to make the first black woman on the Federal Reserve Board.
If confirmed, Cook would be the first black woman to serve on the Fed's Board of Governors.
Diversity is not a qualification. James Fishback, CEO of Asoria, who is also being floated as a potential governor for the Federal Reserve for that seat. Sir, I mean, I can't think of a better person to talk to than you about her.
Well, good evening, Carl.
So my whole thing with this woman is like, she was basically like, if I'm coming back, all this stuff, I'm not going to be fired. It's like, but you're not, one, you don't know what you're doing. Two, you're a diversity hire. Three, you were fired by the President of the United States.
That's exactly right. And she was fired by the President of the United States for a credible allegation that she actually committed mortgage fraud. Her job is to guard against the type of mortgage fraud that undermines the financial system, not to go out and commit it herself. The grand irony here, Carl, is she refuses to raise rates for us, but she'll go out and commit mortgage fraud to get lower rates for herself. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913, Section 10, gives the president and the president alone the statutory legal right to remove a Fed governor for cause. This type of for cause stipulation includes wrongdoing. What is more wrong than lying on a mortgage application in the span of 2 weeks on 2 properties in 2 states, getting 2 separate mortgages, both claiming they were her primary residence? Right. What she did was wrong, un-American, and illegal. She has to leave office now.
Right. Well, you confronted her at the Fed board meeting, and you put up a tweet. You said, I was told that if I came back to the Federal Reserve Conference, I would be arrested and charged with trespassing simply for asking her about mortgage fraud.
That's exactly right, Carl. I was at that conference meeting with Fed researchers and regional Fed presidents discussing Azoria's new model that says that Once again, President Trump has it right that interest rates are at least 1.7 percentage points too high. I was there to speak truth and provide a different opinion. And then when I saw Lisa Cook in the lobby on Friday morning, I asked her, I said, Governor Cook. And then I asked her about these mortgage fraud allegations. She turned away in disgust. And then minutes later, I was escorted out of the conference and told if I came back and asked Lisa Cook another question, I would be arrested and criminally charged with trespassing. This is the Federal Reserve, ladies and gentlemen. In 2025, if you ask them a question they don't like, if you provide an opinion that they don't appreciate, they will threaten you and punish you. And this is exactly what President Trump is getting at. This behavior is unbecoming of a Fed governor, and it is unbecoming of this institution.
Yeah, no, I think you're there. And James, we wish you luck. I would love to see you on the Fed. That'd be great. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, let me clarify that. Let's abolish the Fed. But if it's not abolished, I want you there. All right, coming up, we are seeing 2A wins nationwide from potential permitless carry in North Carolina to soon be shortening purchasing wait times in Florida. That and more on our 2A Tuesday next. All right, it's 2A Tuesday. Let's do some gun stuff. The North Carolina House is gearing up for a potential override vote to Democrat Governor Josh Stein's veto on the Senate Bill 50, which would allow constitutional carry. I think they were making the 28th state, 29th, something like that. The legislation, which was initially vetoed on June 20th, would allow adults over the 18 to carry concealed and open carry handguns without a permit. On June 20th, Governor Stein vetoed the bill, arguing that it would undermine public safety, which is wrong, because why should you be able to easily protect yourself against criminals who already ignored these laws? A concept perfectly explained by Trump just last week.
I'm a Second Amendment person, very simply. People have to be able to protect themselves. Especially like in Washington, you walk down the street, a guy comes up and slugs you. He's got a pistol in his hand. You can be tough, you can be in great shape, you can be a powerful person, or you can be a guy that weighs 100 pounds with a gun in your hand. Right. And I'll bet on the guy with the gun 100% of the time, right? And so you need protection. So I'm a Second Amendment person all the way.
This is why I pack heat. Perhaps he could just do national reciprocity, and we'll go from there. Cam Edwards, editor at Bearing Arms, and Luis Valdez, spokesman at Gun Owners of America. All right, Cam, what's your take on this? This is like state 28.
State 30, actually.
Is it really?
Yeah, Louisiana was 28, South Carolina 29, so North Carolina would be 30.
I stand corrected.
You know, again, more than half the country has already adopted this, right? This is not exactly breaking news. This is nothing new. So it is incredibly frustrating that we actually have, I think at this point, 3 Republicans who are either non-committal or have said that they will vote against this. So
primary.
It makes it a challenge in the North Carolina House to get this done, unfortunately. Yeah. I would love to see this happen. North Carolina should be the 30th state. We should have all 50 states be constitutional carry. But Gun Owners of North Carolina are going to have to put some pressure on some Republican lawmakers to make it happen.
Yeah, or you can do something that rhymes with primary. Luis, a panel of judges in Tennessee they just struck down 2 gun control laws as unconstitutional violations of the Second Amendment, one banning firearms in public parks and playgrounds, and another so vague it's intent to go armed, which I was reading this, I didn't even understand. Basically, it lets cops harass anyone carrying a gun. The state has 30 days to appeal the court ruling, but I feel like they won't.
Yeah, this was a major win for GOA. We fought tooth and nail against this, and the intent to go armed was literally an oxymoron, as you said. It allowed law enforcement to harass law-abiding citizens who wanted to carry a firearm, not just in the streets, but literally in their own homes. We got the courts to side with us to say this is unconstitutional, and now Tennessee is truly a real constitutional carry state, unlike what it was a couple of weeks ago. So This is a tremendous win due to gun owners' hard work.
Yeah, Cam, the NRA has actually filed a lawsuit against Florida's 3-day waiting period for gun purchases. It was enacted after the Parkland school shooting. And I'm thinking to myself, like, waiting periods are just so archaic. They have no idea.
They don't. And this follows on the heels of the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals last week striking down New Mexico's 7-day waiting period. So we've already seen some precedent here. As the NRA argues, the first waiting period law was put into effect in California, I think, in the 1920s. It was a 1-day waiting period so that the background check could be completed. Well, now we have the national instant check system, so that's not necessary. And that's not the justification for Florida's law. Florida calls this a cooling off period. So basically, after you've bought a gun, you've passed the background check, instead of taking that gun home with you, you're supposed to sit and think about your decision for 3 days. Do you really want to exercise your Second Amendment rights? This is, completely devoid of any sort of national tradition of gun ownership. It is in direct conflict with the plain text of the Second Amendment. It's going to be really interesting, Carl. Florida's Attorney General James Oosmeyer has declined to defend the state's ban on gun sales to 18, 19, and 20-year-olds before the Supreme Court. Now, here's another federal challenge to a Florida gun law, and it's going to be interesting to see if the Attorney General will defend this law or if he will take a pass on the waiting period bill, too. I will say that I am thankful for waiting periods on one basis, is that I was waiting for my wife to approve my last gun purchase. I just bought a .226 X5 with, tritium sights, so I'm very excited about that. Luz, 15 seconds or less here. Florida and the cannabis rule. If you're using medical grade cannabis and stuff like this, you say, yes, you can possess firearms.
It's a win. Very simple. Floridians shouldn't have their Second Amendment rights denied because their doctors prescribe them a certain medication. So this is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, and also, if you're high or drunk, you can't carry a firearm because you're under the influence. So just because you used it one day doesn't mean you can't carry a gun the next day. So it seems simple enough to me. Cam Edwards, Luis Valdez, we appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, folks, before we go, can we just chill with calling every white person racist? That shtick is getting pretty old pretty fast. More on that in just a sec.
Anytime that we play something from Stephen Miller, it would be journalistic integrity to point out that he is a white supremacist and he is the brainchild behind this policy. That's not my opinion. That's actual facts.
All right, that's not how facts work. This woman is ignorant and doesn't know what she's talking about. That would actually be a fact because she just insinuated that Stephen Miller is stopped just short of being a card-carrying member of the KKK with no evidence of that whatsoever. Find me one. Here, I tell you what, lady. You find me one person that Stephen Miller has actually discriminated against based on the color of their skin. Now, I'm not the status of their immigration. I bet you can't. Just because you may not agree with a white person doesn't mean they should be automatically categorized as a white supremacist. This is why you guys lost the election. You still don't realize it. I mean, it's baffling to me. But you know what? Here you are. I hope you run on that message because it worked so well in the last election. We hear enough from Jasmine Crockett with her unoriginal, overused comments. And now we have to listen to Tiffany Cross. I don't even know who that is, talking about. I swear, they just say these things to get screen time, to go viral, like CNN. I know how these productions work. Hey, are you going to say something harsh about this? We need somebody on the other side of this pen. Yeah, I'll say whatever you want, just so I can get on TV and not get paid for it. It's just getting so old, all these people. That's why their ratings are in the tank, and that's why ours are going up. Anyway, Greta's next. We appreciate you being here. Same time, same place tomorrow. See you then.